The night smelled of rain and fear. Cold wind moved through the towering black pines, carrying whispers across the valley. Every creature in the forest felt it, the presence of the Shadowfang Pack's alpha king, Kale Draven. Even the wolves avoided speaking his name loudly. The moon hung full and silver above the mountains, illuminating the massive stone fortress that stood at the center of the territory. Torches burned along its walls, their flames trembling as if they too feared the man who ruled within. Inside the fortress, silence lived like a law. Servants walked carefully, warriors spoke only when necessary. No laughter echoed through the halls, because laughter had once cost someone their life. The curse of the Alpha Kale sat on his throne carved from obsidian rock, his broad shoulders wrapped in a black fur cloak. His presence alone made the air heavy. He was not old, but he carried the stillness of someone who had seen too much death. Sharp silver eyes scanned the hall, while a faint scar crossed his left cheek, giving him a dangerous, untouchable beauty. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, softening nothing about him. 3 Luna candidates had been brought to him in the past 5 years. 3, none survived. The first had screamed the moment she felt the bond forming. The second fainted during the ceremony and never woke again. The third lasted 2 days before her heart simply stopped. Since then, a rumor spread across all werewolf territories. The Alpha King was cursed. No woman could survive becoming his mate, and Kale had stopped trying. He ruled alone, cold, controlled. Untouchable until tonight. The girl who should not have come far beyond the fortress gates. A small caravan struggled along the mountain road. Rain began to fall. Inside one of the wooden wagons sat a girl wrapped in a faded gray cloak. She looked no older than 20. Her name was Alara, and unlike the trembling traders around her, she was not afraid. She watched the storm quietly, her fingers tracing the edge of a silver pendant hanging around her neck. It was warm, it had always been warm. The caravan leader suddenly pulled the wagon to a stop. "Alara," he said nervously, not meeting her eyes. "We were here." She stepped down into the rain. Ahead of her stood the enormous iron gates of Shadowfang Fortress. The guards looked at her with confusion, then suspicion, then something close to pity. "State your purpose," one of them demanded. Alara lifted her chin. "I've come to meet the Alpha King." The guards exchanged looks. One of them sighed. Another shook his head. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered. "No woman survives him." Alara's expression didn't change. "I know." Lightning flashed across the sky. For a brief moment, the silver pendant around her neck glowed brighter. The first meeting, the fortress doors opened with a deep echo. Alara walked alone through the massive hall, her footsteps soft against the stone floor. At the far end sat Kale. The moment he saw her, something strange happened. The air shifted, not violently, not painfully, but gently, like a storm choosing not to arrive. Kale leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. He expected fear. He expected trembling. He expected another fragile girl forced here by politics or desperation. But Alara simply walked toward him, calm, steady, quiet. Her gray eyes met his, and for the first time in years, Kale felt his wolf go still. Not restless, not aggressive, still. The entire hall sensed it. Warriors exchanged uneasy looks. The beta stiffened. Even the torches flickered. Alara stopped a few steps before the throne. Rainwater slid from her cloak onto the floor. She did not bow. She did not speak immediately. She just looked at him, as if she had been searching for him her entire life. Kale's voice finally broke the silence. "You were warned." Alara nodded. "Yes." "And you still came?" "Yes." A pause. Then Kale asked the question he always asked. "Why?" Alara touched the silver pendant. Her voice was soft but steady. "Because I don't think you're the danger." The hall froze. The beta nearly stepped forward in protest. But Kale lifted a hand. Silence returned instantly. His eyes locked onto hers. There was no fear, no hesitation. No weakness, only something unfamiliar. Peace, the bond that shouldn't exist. Kale stood. The movement alone sent pressure through the hall. He walked toward her slowly, each step heavy with authority. Every Luna candidate before her had started shaking at this distance. Alara didn't. Instead, her breathing softened. Like she was finally able to rest, the scent hit him first. Moonlight, rain, and something ancient. Cale's wolf stirred not violently, but with deep recognition. Impossible. The mate bond didn't feel like this. This was calmer, deeper, stronger. He stopped only inches away from her. "Look at me," he said quietly. Alara lifted her eyes, and everything changed. The bond snapped into place. But instead of paint, warmth spread through the room, soft, gentle, alive. Several warriors gasped. The beta whispered under his breath, "That's not possible." Cale felt it too. No pressure, no curse, no darkness, only silence, peace, control. His voice lowered. "What are you?" Alara smiled faintly. "Your mate." The night everyone expected her to die, the entire fortress prepared for the worst. Again. That night, tradition demanded the Alpha and his mate sleep within the moon chamber, the place where the bond either stabilized or destroyed. 3 times before, women had entered that chamber. 3 times death had followed. Servants lit the candles. Warriors stood outside. The healer prepared her herbs. The beta did not sleep. And inside the chamber, Cale stood near the balcony, watching the storm. He didn't turn when Alara entered. "Leave," he said quietly. She blinked. "What? You don't understand what happens here." Alara removed her cloak. "I understand enough. Women die," Cale said bluntly. Alara walked closer. Maybe they weren't meant to stay. The words hit harder than expected. Cale turned for a moment. Something dangerous flashed in his silver eyes, but Alara didn't step back. Instead, she did something no one had ever dared to do. She reached forward and gently took his hand. The bond flared, warm, steady, alive. Cale froze, his wolf, silent for years, finally relaxed. Alara smiled softly. "See," her voice lowered, "I'm not afraid of you." The storm outside began to fade. Minutes later, Alara lay beside him on the massive stone bed, her head resting lightly against his chest. Cale didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't trust what was happening. But slowly, her breathing deepened, steady, peaceful, sleeping, alive. And for the first time in years, the Alpha King slept too. Outside the chamber, hours passed. The beta watched the door, waiting, listening, counting. 1 hour. 2, 3, no scream, no collapse, no healer rushing inside, only silence. The kind of silence that meant something had changed. Then morning light touched the fortress walls. The chamber doors opened. Cale stepped out, alive, calm, different. Behind him, Alara walked quietly, still half asleep, leaning gently against his arm. And every warrior in the hall felt it. The curse was gone, or something far more powerful had just begun. The fortress had never felt like this before. Light seemed warmer. The cold stone halls no longer carried the same suffocating tension. Even the warriors, men who had lived their entire lives under strict discipline, found themselves whispering about the impossible. She survived. Servants moved faster, curiosity burning behind their careful expressions. The Alpha King's mate was alive. A calm that felt dangerous. Cale noticed it first. Not the whispers, not the stares, but the silence inside his own mind. For years, his wolf had lived like a storm trapped beneath his skin, restless, aggressive, constantly pushing against control. Every full moon had been a battle. Every emotional shift carried risk, but now, stillness, balanced power. Control without force. It didn't make sense. Cale stood near the training courtyard balcony, watching warriors spar below. Steel clashed, wolves circled, dust rose in golden morning light, yet his focus remained elsewhere. On her, he could feel Alara through the bond, soft, warm, alive, and strangely calming. Behind him, the fortress healer approached cautiously. "Your Majesty," Cale didn't turn. "Say it." The elderly woman hesitated. "In all my years, I've never seen a bond stabilize this quickly." Now he turned. "What are you implying?" Her voice lowered. "I think she isn't just surviving your power." A pause. "I think she's absorbing it." The pendant. Alara sat beside the tall arched window of her chamber, sunlight falling across her silver pendant. She had removed it, for the first time since childhood. The chain rested in her palm, glowing faintly like captured moonlight. Her expression wasn't calm anymore, it was worried. A soft knock came at the door. Cale entered without waiting for permission. The air shifted instantly. The bond reacted, gentle warmth flowing between them. His eyes immediately locked onto the pendant. "What is that?" Elira hesitated. That was answer enough. Cale stepped closer. "I felt it last night." Silence. "Elira." Her fingers tightened around the chain. "It protects people." Cale's gaze sharpened. "From what?" Now she looked at him. "From power that's too heavy for their soul." The words landed heavily between them. Something dark flickered in Cale's eyes. "You're saying I killed them?" "No." Her answer came instantly. "You didn't." The room fell quiet again. Then slowly she placed the pendant in his hand. The moment it touched his skin, the air trembled. A faint pulse of silver light spread through the room like ripples across water. Cale felt it immediately. Memories, pain, rage, loss. All the emotions he had buried for years softened. Not erased, balanced, his voice dropped. "Where did you get this?" Elira swallowed. "I was born with it." The truth she had hidden rain returned that evening. Soft at first, then steady, the kind of rain that carried old memories with it. Elira stood on the balcony while the wind moved through her hair. Cale watched from the doorway. He sensed something shifting in her emotions. Fear, not of him, of the past. "Elira," she didn't turn. "I wasn't supposed to come here." The words were quiet, almost lost beneath the rain. Cale stepped closer. "Explain." Her fingers rested on the balcony stone. "My village had an elder." She paused. "He told me something when I turned 18. Now she turned slowly. Her gray eyes carried a truth she had never spoken aloud before. "He said I was born for one purpose." The bond flickered. Cale felt tension rise. What purpose? Her voice dropped to a whisper. "To stop a king from destroying himself." Lightning flashed. Thunder followed. And in that moment, Cale understood. The curse, the deaths, the unstable bond. It wasn't random. It wasn't fate. It was him, or rather something inside him. The beast beneath the crown that night. Cale didn't sleep. He stood alone in the underground chamber beneath the fortress, the place no one entered without permission. Stone walls carved with ancient symbols surrounded him. At the center of the chamber lay a circular platform marked by claw-like patterns. This was where Alpha Kings trained to control their primal forms. This was where Cale had nearly lost himself years ago. His wolf wasn't normal. It never had been. Stronger, faster, more violent, and after his father died in battle, something inside Cale had changed. Power had awakened, but control hadn't. 3 mates had died because their souls couldn't withstand the raw alpha energy tied to his bloodline. Until Elira, until the pendant, until the calm, Cale clenched his fists. For the first time, he didn't feel like a curse. He felt like a storm finally finding its sky. The night the bond deepened, Elira woke suddenly. The bond was pulling her. Not painfully, but urgently. She stepped out of bed, following the feeling through the dark halls, down staircases, through torchlit corridors, until she reached the underground chamber. The massive doors stood open. Inside, Cale was shifting, not fully into wolf form, not fully human, halfway, struggling. Dark energy moved through the room like heat waves. Power pressed against the walls, wild, uncontrolled, dangerous, but Elira didn't stop. She walked forward. Cale's silver eyes snapped toward her. "Elira, leave." But she kept walking. The pendant began glowing brighter. The air softened, the pressure eased, Cale's breathing slowed. Still, the wolf inside him fought. Years of suppressed power refused to surrender easily. Elira stepped closer, closer, until she stood directly in front of him. Then gently she placed her hand over his heart. Everything exploded into light. Silver energy burst outward in a quiet wave. Not destructive, but balancing. The chamber fell silent. The wolf disappeared. Cale returned fully to human form. His breathing slowed. His shoulders relaxed, and for the first time he looked free. Elira smiled softly. "You don't need to fight it anymore." Cale stared at her. Not like a king, not like a warrior, but like a man who had finally found the one place he could rest. Slowly, he pulled her into his arms. The bond settled deeper, stronger, warmer. permanent, but neither of them noticed. The ancient symbols carved into the chamber walls had begun to glow. And far beyond the mountains, someone else felt it. Someone powerful, someone watching. The morning sun spilled over the fortress, but it brought no warmth to the shadows lurking in the lands beyond Shadowfang. Kale sat in the moon chamber, Alara beside him, her head resting against his chest. The storm outside had passed, but the calm in the fortress felt fragile, like a candle flickering against a sudden gust. He could feel it through the bond. Someone was coming, someone dangerous. A visitor from the unknown, a lone wolf, appeared at the edge of the territory, moving with unnatural silence. Kale's instincts flared. The Alpha King had always been able to detect intruders, but this presence carried power that made even his wolf stir cautiously. The messenger arrived at the gates at dawn. He was dressed in dark leathers, hood pulled low, eyes glowing faintly in the early light. The guards tensed immediately. "State your business," the lead guard demanded, hand on sword hilt. The hooded figure removed his hood. Silver hair glimmered in the sunlight. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and Kale felt it immediately, the kind of predator who could rival even him. "I am here for the Alpha King," the man said calmly, "and for the girl." The warning Kale stepped forward, the bond with Alara flaring instantly. She stiffened, sensing the danger before him. "Who are you?" Kale demanded. The silver-haired man smiled faintly, a cold edge to it. "My name is Thern," he said, "and I have come to remind you of a truth you've long forgotten. The bond she carries, it is not just protection. It is a key." Alara's grip on Kale's hand tightened. "A key?" she asked. Thern's gaze flicked to her pendant. "Yes, that pendant was never meant to just protect. It was created by an ancient bloodline to bind a king's power, or destroy it. Your ancestors knew this day would come, Alpha King. You cannot protect her from what is coming." Kale's jaw tightened, his wolf stirred, unease rising. "Explain yourself. Who are you to speak of my ancestors?" Thern's smile widened. "I am a guardian of what your bloodline almost destroyed. And now it is time for the reckoning." The bond tested, the night fell quickly, and with it, an oppressive darkness unlike any storm Kale had ever faced. Alara and Kale stood on the balcony, the wind whipping around them, the fortress below silent. "The bond is strong," Kale muttered. "Stronger than I've ever felt, but something is coming for it." Alara nodded, fingers tracing the pendant. "I can feel it too. Whoever this Thern is, he knows about the pendant's power. He won't stop until he has it, or we're destroyed." Kale pressed a hand to her cheek. "Then we will face it together." A low growl escaped his lips, not fully human, not fully wolf. His pack members outside the chamber stiffened, sensing his tension. "Alara," he whispered, "tonight you must stay close, no matter what happens." She leaned into him, trusting him completely. "I've never been afraid of you. I'm not afraid now." Shadows attack at midnight, the fortress trembled. A shadow swept across the outer walls, swift, silent, and lethal. Kale and Alara rushed to the battlements. Silver light erupted from the pendant, creating a protective aura around them. Wolves and warriors clashed with unseen enemies, figures moving faster than the eye could follow. Thern appeared on the roof opposite them, watching, calm as the chaos unfolded. "Your time is coming, Alpha King," he called. "And you will see why no woman ever survived you." Kale's wolf roared in response, the bond with Alara flaring stronger than ever. He could feel her power merging with his own, tempering it, controlling it. Together, they were stronger. But Thern wasn't the only one. From the shadows, more figures emerged. Creatures older than Kale had imagined, beings who had once been allies of his ancestors, now twisted by dark ambition. The fortress became a battlefield, not of swords, but of raw supernatural power. Alara's pendant glowed, connecting them. Kale's wolf surged forward, controlled and precise, as the alpha and his mate fought side by side. And for the first time, Kale realized the reason no woman had survived him was not his fault. It was the enemies of his bloodline, testing, waiting for the right moment to strike, and that moment had come. The calm before the storm, after hours of battle, the shadowed figures retreated, melting into the night. The fortress lay battered but standing. Kale held Alara close, feeling her warmth, her life, the bond stronger than ever. But both knew the danger was far from over. Theron had hinted at truths neither of them fully understood. Alara's pendant pulsed gently against her chest, as if warning them of trials ahead. Kale pressed a kiss to her forehead. No matter what comes, you will never be alone. Alara smiled softly, eyes closing. And you will never be alone either. But deep within the mountains, something stirred. A presence older, darker, and far more powerful than anything Kale had faced. The true test of the Alpha King, and the girl who had survived him, was only just beginning.